Morning, everybody. Today I'm going to be going over some tuning and maintenance on the bike from our last outing, some things I need to make changes on based on what I learned. Last Saturday night I made, it was Thursday, I'm sorry, it was last Thursday night. We went to Piedmont for a test and tune and made 5 runs, and I don't know if it was just the excitement of doing this again after all these years. I was failing to pay attention to some very simple things. I want to go over some of that stuff. First of all, if you watch the passes, sorry for the shaking tripod here. The trailer's not hooked up to anything, so it's kind of bouncing around here. We'll see if we can stabilize it a little bit better there. Maybe that'll do it. First of all, if you watch the passes, you can notice that right about the time I'm about to shift, the bike it starts cutting out, and I went to looking in my paperwork for the Dyna 2000i. Okay, this thing has 6 little dip switches on it right here. Okay, and they have to be in a certain order to do certain things. So switch 1, which is, if your bike still has the VOES on it, which mine does not, it's a vacuum operated electrical switch. What it does is it controls the timing based on vacuum of the engine. And I don't want to use that on a drag racing application. So the second switch says retard. It uses the VOES wire to retard timing for nitrous or turbo equipped bikes. See below for further explanation on that. Again, naturally aspirated, not turbocharging it. I want the timing locked in where it's at. Okay, so switches 2 and 3. These two switches, depending on where you have them, they will set up your advance curve. Now, based on numerous videos I've watched on Hammer Performance YouTube channel, excuse me, curve 4 is the slowest advancing curve, okay? And then based on the static timing, you back it off an additional, say about 30 thousandths, which is 2 degrees, to give you, I think it's 28 or 26 degrees of timing. I can't remember which. But anyway, those 2 switches, 2 and 3, both should be on to give you curve 4. Switches 4 and 5, these are your rev limiter switches, okay? I had mine, not paying attention again, mine was set at 6,500. 6,500, mine was set at 6,500. I also have my shift point because the camshaft manufacturer, Andrews, they're stating that their cams make power from 2,500 RPM to 6,500 RPM. So when you're setting up one of these to race and you're trying to decide your shift point, there's several things to consider. Number 1 being, the higher you rev these engines, the more likely the flywheels are going to flex like this. So you only want to go, and again, this is a personal choice. There's a fine line there between tearing stuff up and using everything you can, using the motor to its fullest potential. So I'm going to assume that because I'm shifting this bike at 6,500, that I am putting a little bit of outward flex on those flywheels. And that means that probably every season I'm probably going to have to take this engine down and send the flywheels out to get them retrued and rebuilt if necessary. So that's a consideration. The higher you rev these things, the higher the maintenance is going to be on them, okay? So I got off topic a little bit there, I'm sorry. So anyway, I went ahead and set my switches 4 and 5 both to on, which gives me a 7,500 RPM limit. And so I can shift it at 65. Like I said, if you watch the videos, you can notice that on a few passes when I'm actually launching the bike, the shift light's coming on before I get the bike out ready to shift. So note to the wise, on these Harleys, that first shift from first to second gear comes really quick. This engine doesn't have a charging system. All that extra weight on the front of on the flywheels is gone. This thing revs very quickly. It surprised me really how quick it revs, because I initially had when I was testing it out on the street there, I had it set at 5,000 on the shift light, and I mean it was instantly hitting that light. Like I thought something was wrong with the light, but I called Schnitz, went over to set up with them. They said everything was right. So, you know, the gearing being a 50 tooth on the back and the no weight hanging out on the end of that flywheel where I got rid of all that charging system, it RPMs very quickly. So 7,500 is as high as the 2,000i will let you go. I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable with that, but it gets it out of the way. So if I mess up and don't catch the light right away, I can still get it shifted without it hitting the rev limiter. Now, the operating range of the camshaft, 65, I should probably set it to about 63. That way, by the time I see the light and react to it, it should put me right about 6,500. So I think I'm going to do that. Also, I noticed as the night got longer and it started to cool down, the bike actually slowed down. So that tells me it wasn't getting enough fuel, which means I don't have a big enough main jet in it. Now, let's see here, Makuni carburetor book. There we go. So when you buy an HSR, you get, there's like a small starter tuning guide, and then there's a bigger guide. So honestly, these carburetors are almost bolt on and go. They're really good carburetors. I've always had the best of luck with these things. I have tried to dabble in the S&S Super E carburetor several times, and really honestly, for as simple as those carburetors are, they are very difficult, in my opinion, to get those things to run right. Now, there are tons of guys out there that are running very fast on Sportsters. I'm talking, there's a guy named Joe Perry who's been at it for a lot of years. Real nice guy, just spoke to him on the phone the other day. He is running an 80, I thought he said an 86 cubic inch engine. And for years he ran a 1250 and was running low nines. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, looking at his bike, he runs an S&S carburetor on there. And so it's for some guys, you know, with his new engine combination, he has been in the high 8s on that bike, in the quarter mile, not the 8th, okay? So some guys can do it. I personally have, I used to work, I had a side hustle. I was working on Harleys in my garage. And several customers, you know, would come in with the S&S carburetors on their old Evo twins, or even on a twin cam. And some of them I got to run pretty good, and others I'm like, look, man, go buy a Makuni, because or take it to somebody that knows this carburetor, because And they're very straightforward. They're very simple carburetors. There's not much to them. But for some reason, I've had the worst of luck with those things. So therefore, I don't buy them anymore. I'm not going to waste the money on something that I got to fight with. The Mikuni is so simple. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than a SNS carb. However, this one right out of the box, it has good throttle response. There's no hang up on the idle. It's the pilot jet is right about where it needs to be. I did have to tweak the accelerator pump just a little bit. But what I've done today, it comes factory with a 160 main jet, and I did get a few assortments of main jets with it. The incremental change in these jets, the range is from 150 to 210, and they're in increments of 2.5. So I had a 160 in there. I could have went to 162.5, 165, 167.5, and then 170. So that's 4 sizes. What I had in my set was a 170. So I went ahead and put the 170 main jet in. So technically that's 4 steps up from what was in there. I'm gonna give that a try and see how that does. If that's a problem, I'm gonna have to buy that $60 or $80 tuning kit that has a lot wider range of jets in it. I might even be able to say drop the needle 1 clip or something to, I don't know if that's too much. I doubt it'll be too much. The way it was running, it really wanted some more fuel. So, and typically all my Sportster engines, they really love the cooler air. This one didn't seem to like it. It just seemed to want to lay down. So that tells me I had it very lean, even though the plugs weren't showing it, but it was just, wasn't getting enough fuel. So what I'm going to do also is I need to go over and check all my bolts, check everything, make sure nothing's falling apart on it. I like to do that, especially on a new build. Make sure all my bolts, brakes, everything's, nothing's falling apart on it. The bike was extremely smooth riding. It rode quite well. So there's not too much to worry about there other than just some tuning. It ran, let's see, I think my best pass was a 771 at 91 miles per hour with a 181 60 foot. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but I have a 13 spoke mag wheel on the bench in there with a brand new Shinko 777. I'm waiting on the sprocket for it to come in from Sprocket Specialist, which I went ahead and ordered a 50 for that. Now it has a larger, because it's an 01 wheel instead of this 97, it has a larger pilot. So my 50 tooth from this wheel will not fit that wheel without some machine work, which I don't know if it has jaws big enough to center that sprocket up in there and open that pilot up. And by the time I paid to get that done, I could have just bought another sprocket anyway. I'm going to put that I'm going to put that 13 spoke mag on the back. It has a different rotor, again, bigger pilot. It has a lot of cutouts in it, so it's considerably lighter than this solid brake rotor that's on this bike now. So between getting rid of the tube, the spokes and all that other mess and that hub, and them wire spoke wheels are extremely heavy. I'm expecting, I don't know, man, maybe 5 pound savings, rotating weight. Again, watching those videos, you can tell that I'm not slacking, I'm not bogging that bike. I'm coming out pretty good with it. And the fact that I could only get it in the 1/8 and the 60 foot was kind of bothering me. And I spoke to one of my friends who's very well versed in this stuff, and name's Perry. And he says it's the weight of the wheel, that's what's killing you. He said, there's only so much in it, and it looks like you're doing everything you can. So, again, this is a new experience for me. I raced, when I did drag race, when I was younger, I always raced imports. I never raced Harleys. not gonna lie, it's a lot of fun. It's something different. You know, you can only own so many Kawasaki KZs or GSXRs or even Hayabusas. You know, it's the same old, same old, same old. You know, different color, same bike. And I'm not saying the Harleys are any better. The thing of it is they're different, you know, from everything I've ever done. And that's interesting. It piques my interest, keeps me engaged, you know, excited about what I'm doing. So, obviously, you know, for what I've spent on this bike, I could have bought an old, you know, early 2000s Hayabusa and went twice as fast as this damn thing. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. For the money, I could be going a lot faster. It really isn't about that. One other thing I noticed around the Harley racing crowds is a lot of good people, always willing to help. You know, they don't mind helping you out, sharing a few of their tuning tricks and trade. And because at the end of the day, you still have to ride the bike. So, you know, that's a nice thing. You know, a lot of them don't carry secrets around, and I've always been one of those guys too. When I seen new guys coming along and struggling and stuff, I was always willing to help them, because at the end of the day, they still had to cut a light, and they still had to run their number to beat me. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't need to fool with the MPS kill, because the shifter works. I mean, honestly, it just works flawlessly. So I'm not going to fool with that. There's no need to even bother with that. I think that's fine where it is. One other thing I'm going to do is consider this 5 runs plus the heat cycles, the break-in period on this engine. I'm going to go ahead and do an oil change on it. So one other thing I had to fix on it was where the wiring for the stator goes through the cases. There's a rubber grommet, and there's some wires, you know, passing through the center of that grommet. And I just clipped the wires off, shoved the grommet in there. That was a mistake. It was getting some transmission oil was coming out of there. So I had to take some of that, I want to say it's 1187, that sealer, that case sealer. I had to stuff it in those holes where the wires were, and it quit leaking. So I think this next set of cases I've got, I'm going to see if I can measure that hole with a pair of calipers and try to find a freeze-out plug or something that I can knock in there for future use for these cases, you know, since I'm not going to be running the charging system. Maybe I can find a plug that you can knock in there, like a freeze-out plug or something. Hopefully I can. If not, at least I'll know to better prepare the plug the next time. And yeah, I think that's really it for preparedness for the next time out. Like I said, it was a learning experience. Once I was able to observe, it's nice to have those videos, because I watched the runs. I watched every one of them, and I could see all but maybe one of them. The bike was just hitting the rev limiter every time before I get it into the next gear. So, and some of that, you know, as the night went on and it got cooler, it could have been the main jet starving out, causing it to break up as well. So, hopefully this next outing will be a lot better. I'm trying to find, you'd be surprised how hard it is to find just an ET bracket race. There's always no time, no prep, no this, do that, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't have a $100,000 bike, and I'll never have a $100,000 bike. So, trying to find a bracket race, man. A lot of the races I want to travel around to, they do have ET classes, which is what I'm going to do with this bike. Now, I've discussed in some of the videos, like changes I'd like to make to this bike over the winter to make it longer, put a bigger engine, blah, blah, blah. Well, so what I've done, I'm going to start on a second bike. So I went and picked up a 99 complete frame with motor mounts, battery box, oil tank. Because learning from buying this bike as a complete bike, I threw away so much of the thing that I wasn't going to use, and even more so on the new one I'm going to build. I didn't need a front end. I didn't need any of that stuff because I'm going to use something different. So long story short, I bought a straight, perfect, registered frame with all the motor mounts and hardware, with the oil tank, with the battery box, and the guy even left swing arm on. I paid $325 for it. So when I bought this one, it was $1,300 with a rod knocking. So, okay. So that bike will have, it'll have a sport bike, excuse me, a sport bike front end on it. I already have one of those on the way from eBay. Once I get it set up on a table somewhere, I'll go ahead and we'll do a video on the beginning of that one with a little discussion about the game plan. But yeah, it's going to be a second bike. I'm going to leave this one as is, and I'm just going to maintain it and enjoy it, and to try to go faster and compete in. I hope I'm saying this right. It's all Harley World Shootout. Has a no bar class. It's mainly comprised of Sportsters and Dynas. So the Sportsters are limited to 103 cubic inch and 68 inch wheelbase, no power adder. And these guys are tickling the 8 seconds, 8s with these things. The Dynas, I think the bigger Dynas and possibly the Softails are allowed to have a 124 inch motor with nitrous. So, it should be interesting. You know, first thoughts I had, yeah, I want to run with the big boys and do all this and do that. And you watch a guy like, I'll use Jeremy Justice, for example. His bike is a turbo bagger. It's very fast. He does quite well, but you know, the one thing I missed until I looked at it was the fact that the guy has been, what, 6-7 years with that bike, starting out at a certain point, and worked his way up to where he's at now, and he's worked really hard. God only knows how much money it's cost him to get where he's at, but he has a very good race program, very competitive, and I just, you know, you also look at Greg Dahl. Those guys have $100,000 motorcycles, man. They'll show up for some of them races. There's no, you know, there's no bothering. I remember I had a water-cooled Suzuki back in the day with nitrous on it, and about the time that Kent Stotts and Barry Henson come along with them turbo Blackbirds, it was just like, I quit. You know, I'm tearing stuff up just to try to qualify, and these guys are running away with it. So, you know, I don't know what it is, lack of money, I guess, mainly. But you know, if you want something bad enough, you'll figure out a way to do it, which is what a lot of those guys are doing. I'm not saying they're a bunch of rich guys that are doing it. They work really hard for what they got, and maybe I just lack the focus to go that far with it. But I think this next build I'm going to do is a stepping stone in that direction. I don't know how long it was. This one took us 6 months to get done. The other one, based on the cost of it, I've already talked to Hammer Dan, about a 90-inch motor. I got an idea what it's going to cost me to build that engine to be competitive. I'm not really sure how to build a 103 or 100 cubic inch Sportster. I imagine it would take stroker flywheels, which is an exceptionally large increase in investment. Because this stuff is not shelf stuff anymore. That has to be custom made of stroker flywheels. So, I mean, a good set of competition flywheels for a Sportster is about, and I'm talking with Corilla rods, lightened, knife edge, trued, welded, you know, ready to go, and you can put a beating on them. You're looking at a couple grand. So I would imagine, you know, moving that crank pin out to get more stroke out of it, I imagine that costs a lot of money. Probably custom made fly, I don't know, it's probably double that price of that basic competition flywheel set. So, yeah, when I get to, like I said, when I get some stuff moved around and I get started tinkering with that other bike, I'll get a video up on that and get some kind of an idea. That's going to be fiberglass everything. There's not going to be any sheet metal bodywork on it. I'm gonna try to make it as light as possible. I'm gonna start out with GSXR wheels with ceramic wheel bearings. And if I get to a point, and if I save my money and I do it right, if I get to a point, I'll purchase a set of BST carbon fiber wheels for it, because that alone, that weight savings, that unsprung weight is just phenomenal. Those bikes perform very well with those light wheels. There's a lot of caution in taking care of those wheels though. One little chip or something, I don't know if they'll be compromised. It kind of scares me. Actually, I like the thought of magnesium wheels better than I do the carbon fiber ones, but again, I don't know, based on cost, the Marvic wheels, I don't know if you can still buy that stuff, or it might cost twice as much as those BST wheels, I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling here. When I get this thing back out, we'll go ahead and shoot another video, series of videos. Again, I still have the iPhone, I'm not editing. Every time you stop it, you got to start a new video. I do have a camera, several cameras now. We're working on getting that stuff ready. Start to get a laptop with some editing software, and hopefully I can take the quality of these videos a lot higher, and I can just compile a lot of small videos into one. It'd be a lot easier to watch, I think. But we're working towards that goal, and thank you, everybody, for following along, for supporting. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If I don't know, I can point you in the direction of somebody that does. Thank you. Have a good day.